I think a lot of it came from the COVID pandemic lockdown. There was like a 2 year space of people not being able to learn. And then the more experienced people just said, I'm going to check out. I'm going to just stop doing this. I think that put a halt in the training of the new people. Then they didn't have the experience. They couldn't get the opportunities to learn. So there is a hole right now. I think it'll pick back up 2 years, maybe.
My guest today is my good friend for many years, engineer Dennis Moody. Dennis was my first guest way back on episode number 1, and he's been on the podcast almost every year since. Because he travels so much doing live sound, he's almost like the Inner Circle's roving reporter, as each time he comes on, he tells us about the latest music and audio trends worldwide. Dennis is unique in that he does live sound as well as studio recording, as he's engineered some of the biggest acts at some of the world's most famous venues. He's also known as the drummer's engineer, since some of the world's best drummers hire him to engineer their personal albums. During the interview, we spoke about what it's like to do gigs around the world, trends in music and gear, the art of live sound mixing, navigating the challenges of travel, and much more. I spoke with Dennis from his studio in Los Angeles. This is the longest period that we haven't talked. We haven't done this. I mean, it's been about 13 or 14 months. And usually, we talk every year. So we've gone a little longer this time. I would like to know where you've been in this last year, because I travel a lot, but you travel way more than I do.
Well, that's good. Let me start about a year ago. Yeah, since we last talked. The first big trip I took was I was working for a new Persian artist. The funnest, I don't know if I talked about this on my our last talk, but I just started with a new Persian client. He's a guy named Sharam Shapare. And it is the most fun concert of any genre ever that I ever mixed. It's a wild Animal House party. I mean, I did tours with a lot of big bands, Cheap Trick, Kid Rock, who's known for partying. This beat them all by far. And we did 4,000 to 8,000 seaters, arenas and stuff. So we went to shows in Great Britain. We did a bunch in the US, and then we went to England. We did one in London, and we did one in Manchester. And then we had 5 days off, and the band flew back to the States, which is ridiculous unless you want to do mileage runs for the airline.
Yeah, right.
I went to Ireland and just hung out for 4 days because I had never been there. So I went to Dublin, took a little vacation, then I went back to Dubai, and we did a show there at the Dubai Opera House, which is a really cool venue. From there, I had 4 days, and my flight was delayed going in. It was a real drag. I thought I lost a day, and I only had 4 days. So then I only had 3 days. So I hired a guide, and I went to Oman. And my intention was to drive across Oman. It's like 25 miles to the coast, and then circle back northwest to Dubai. And I had a driver and everything, and a guide, really cool guy. And we couldn't, he had something wrong with the car registration. So we went to the border town. We went to the border. We crossed on a bus to the border town, walked around, about some swag magnets and stuff like that. And then we had to go back the same way we came. And but at least I got there, and I got to see that. And then on the way back, I stopped in Qatar, which was so that gave me up to 90 countries. I've added one since then. So we came back from there and then went back to Chicago, did a show after the Dubai show, and then we came home for Christmas last year, I think it was. Went to Australia for 5 shows, which was really nice because they only work on the weekends. So we have 2 weeks down there. We did 4 shows, but I charge them for my time more than the shows, so it works out well. We went from Australia, then we went back to the States. 2 weeks later, we went to Sweden and did 4 or 5 shows up there. Mostly Sweden, maybe Amsterdam, I can't remember. And then down to Germany, where we did 4 shows, and that's been it for me. I'm not working with them anymore. But so that was that. Also, after that, sorry to continue answering your question about where I've been. I know I'm long-winded here, but we went to South Africa with Keiko Matsui's band and did 2 shows, which was really, really fun. It was a quick trip, but we went there, came back Johannesburg, which I'd never been to. I've been to South Africa a couple times, but never Johannesburg. So that was nice. And then from there back, and then I went to London for the holidays for Christmas and New Year's just to go, which
Yeah.
I never do. And it was pretty cool.
I've been to London a lot. I can't ever remember being there on a holiday, though. I've always tried to get out of there before it got too cold. You know?
Cold. It was cold and crowded, and it wasn't very relaxing. But Bertie wanted to go see the lights and all that, and you can see them, and the lights are up all the time. So you can
Yeah.
let's go in summer. So we had a good
Yeah.
time. It was nice. Went to Wales, and that's it.
I'm curious about the music that you've been working with. So has that changed at all? You mentioned you got a new artist there, the
new Persian guy.
new Persian guy. Yeah. But has there been any different requests for you?
I'm doing a lot of straight ahead jazz now, which is really fun. Big band stuff in the studio. I'm talking about. I'm doing a lot of that, like at my little studio here, live, acoustic piano, acoustic drums, acoustic bass, a couple horns, all set up live, which is kind of fun to do. It's weird to arrange them. I put people in the control room, which makes it a little tight. You've been to, not big. Well, when I first started, I did a session in here: acoustic piano, vibes, acoustic bass, percussion, drums, and 4 horns, all live.
Huh.
And we took the couch out and put chairs in, and they recorded the horn section in the control room. So it worked really well. So I've been doing a lot of that, but mostly new clients. Ambrosia, the pop band from the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Ambrosia, I'm working some shows with them, and that's always fun. It's really easy, as I know that music, and I know those guys from high school, actually. They're a couple of years ahead of me, San Pedro. And that's about it. I'm just, more creative music, real players, real drums. I haven't done any MIDI kind of smooth jazz stuff in quite a while. That's it.
When I was kind of growing up in the business at Berkeley College of Music, big band was, a big deal there.
Mm-hmm.
So I recorded all sorts of different variations of big band, both live and in the studio.
Fun.
And had a lot of chops on that at one point in time. But,
Yeah.
it's funny because there's not a lot of that. So you don't get called for it all that often, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. It is. I'm getting a lot there. I'm doing one at Paramount where I started my first studio I worked at back in the mid-'70s. I'm doing one there next month for drums, acoustic bass, acoustic piano, and for 8 or 10 horns, all live. And I think maybe a vocalist, so that'll be fun. There's a big room over there, and they have good isolation. I know the guys, Mike and Adam, very well, so they take care of me there. It's like going back in time. I love it. Yeah.
All right. What kind of trends are you seeing? Musical trends? Musical trends, gear trends?
Gear trends. A lot of people are going for the knockoffs, including me. I can't afford a $5,000 Pultec or a $10,000 Pultec when I can get a Warm Audio Pultec, and it works great, for under $1,000. So I see a lot of people going that route, just trying to get in. Music trends, I can't tell. I mean, in my world, I'm doing the same thing, the jazz, smooth jazz.
How about when you're doing live sound? Is there any trends there?
Yeah, the thing I'm saying is the smaller the console, more compact, more pages. They're really going for that. What I do see out there is people following people gear-wise because they're cool, like, oh, that guy works he's a house guy at the Whiskey or Hollywood Bowl, so he uses that, so I want to use that, which makes no sense to me because the most popular consoles, I won't name them, but I don't like them. I like a Yamaha CL5, which already is discontinued, and Yamaha trying to keep up with the pace with the other consoles. They modified their next one, the Roving console. It's not like the old CL5s, so it's kind of a drag because you get used to using something and you master it, and then next thing you know, it's not available. But I see people trend-wise kind of just following what the other people do, instead of something that's practical.
Yesterday I was talking to the president of the Sports Video Group, which is an association for sports video engineers and technical people. And it's very big, and it's getting bigger because sports video is getting bigger. And he was telling me that there's a dire need for A1s in the broadcast business. There's just not enough mixers because they only had a certain amount, and a lot of those guys retired.
Yeah.
So now there's not enough mixers to go around. Can you believe that?
I could. And I think a lot of it came from the COVID pandemic lockdown. There was like a 2-year space of people not being able to learn. And then the more experienced people just said, I'm going to check out. I'm going to just stop doing this. So the newer people don't have the chance to learn. Yeah. They didn't get the chance to learn from these guys and, just turning over to the new people. So I think that put a halt in the training of the new people, and then they didn't have the experience, they couldn't get the opportunities to learn. So there is a hole right now. I think it'll pick back up 2 years maybe. But
the reason why I bring this up, Dennis, is because, you mentioned about the gear you like to use. One of the prerequisites for all of these A1 gigs was you needed to know a CalRec consoles, because that's kind of the standard in broadcast now, which I had no idea.
Really? I didn't know. Nice consoles.
Yeah, they are. But you don't see them anywhere else.
Are they analog or digital?
They're digital now. They started, big time. It was a Neve competitor for a while, towards the end there. I'd say in the 90s, I think, is when they started. So they're definitely steeped in analog, but
I think they're actually older than that, because when I started Sonora, I got the console API from Peter Ackroyd, who's no longer with us. I got that console, and he had a CalRec over there. Beautiful console. He had, actually, they're Dan's. He had 4 APIs. I remember when I met Dan, I was over at Chevy Chase's working in his home studio for doing a project. I was over there for months. And Chevy, hey, can you show some of my friends the studio? He had an old MCI 20 input console, 16 track. It was an MCI pre-Sony machine. Yeah. And come Dan Aykroyd, Christopher Guest, and a couple other guys. And I go, wow, this is cool. So I show him around. Dan goes, yeah, it's MCI. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I got 4 APIs. And I go, you're kidding. It's my favorite console. So I ended up meeting Peter at the coffee place on La Brea like 4 days later. I couldn't believe it. It was just by sheer coincidence. And I started talking about the consoles, and he goes, yeah, they're in storage. I go, well, if you want to rent me one for a while, I'll take it. And we worked that deal out. So I went over to his place. He was behind a Coconut Teaser. He had a place on Sunset and Crescent Heights.
Yeah.
And he had 2 of the APIs there in the CalRec. But I said, I love this console. Can I get this one? He goes, no, I'm keeping that one for me. Great console.
Well, it's funny you mentioned MCI, and I grew up on MCIs on the East Coast. They're everywhere. But you weren't really exposed to them out here, were you?
Not so much. The big one out here to start, back in the 70s, it was all kinds of stuff, different, late 70s. And then they got into the Trident 80Bs, and I could set up, they became the popular console in town. You could set up a tracking date. I could set up a tracking date, including the mic pre-levels and EQ and everything, just put up the mics and set up, and it wouldn't have to do anything. I knew that console so well, and the mics that I chose to use. But MCIs were a little tricky here. They weren't as popular as the Trident 80B, 80C.
One of the things was they were inline, one of the first inline consoles. So, for monitoring, that made it a little...
Yeah.
You had to wrap your head around it first, to figure out, okay, what's going on. But they were also very inexpensive. They sounded good, but they're
Yeah,
inexpensive. And that's why there were so many of them.
yeah.
They're just everywhere.
I had fun with them using the one at Chevy's. I cut a lot of drummers over there for stuff, and they they sent we had Vinny Caliuta over there, Tom Breckline, and I got that thing sounding pretty good. Really enjoyed working with it.
Have you gotten much gear lately? I mean, you were always acquiring stuff. What's new?
I try not to because I don't need it, but it's, I bought a few mics. I have two RE15s or RE16s I got on Craigslist I got the pair for $90.
Oh,
It's unbelievable.
yeah.
And they're great mics. I love them. I just bought a Shure Teledyne 2 535, the one with the little handle on it. I'm
Yes,
trying to
yes.
recreate the snare sounds I got back in the 70s with James Gadson and all those things I did. I'm just I can't believe how great. So I'm starting at the mic. So I just bought one and I was going to plug it in, and it's got the 4-pin, and they didn't give me the tail. So I go, God, I can't believe that they didn't mention that or include it. So I went online and found one and just ordered it yesterday. I bought it yesterday morning. It'll be here in a couple of days. So I want to start with that. What else did I buy? I bought two Sony C500s with consecutive serial numbers. I love those mics. For some reason, their output is super low, and those mics have really high output. So I'm going to have them serviced when I can get in. Dan, I can't remember who's the repair guy I use. Anyway, he's a mic specialist, so I'm going to have him look at these mics and see if there's something with the phantom that needs to be changed in the pinch there. But I got those little stuff, that stuff. You let it go for years, and I'll fix it later. And then it gets to the point where you have to fix it. So that's what I've been doing the last month. I've been doing things like that. I bought a bigger mic locker, which instead of jamming everything, I bought four new headphones, Sony headphones. I bought four new Vic Firth isolator headphones, cables, just fixing stuff that's been broken or intermittent for years that I can make work, but it's just my sliding glass door here drags. Guys coming in Monday morning to fix that. Little stuff like that. So that's most of it I've been doing.
Are you still on the hunt for another place for a studio?
I would like to get one, but the way the economy is very unpredictable right now. So until things get clearer, I kind of put things on hold. So, but yeah, I would love to get my own building so I can, when I put a nail on the wall, it's my nail. And when the roof leaks, it's my roof leak, not my landlord's. I'll take care of it tomorrow. I'll fix it tomorrow, but it's going to rain today.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're really great.
Well, you've been there for how long now?
24 years.
Oh.
I know. It's amazing. 24 years already here. And I've got a really good deal and a good relation with my landlord. So, it's not Beverly Hills or Hollywood, but I like it around here. I know all my neighbors. I even know all the homeless people, and they look out for me. They make sure nothing happens here. So it's been really great.
It's funny you mentioned that's a fact of life these days in Los Angeles.
I know
the homeless population, and it is good to make friends with them rather than enemies.
Yeah, they're all great. I went that way. They all know me, and they stay away and leave me alone. Kind of look out for me too when I'm gone. So yeah, it's pretty good, and the rent's affordable down here. But now it's super hip in my neighborhood. There's hipster art galleries and antique stores and hipster bars, and it's done.
Really?
Yeah, Starbucks. There's Starbucks on the corner.
Well, it kind of makes sense. I mean, every place else is kind of played out in terms of gentrification. So
yeah,
that was the one place that was missed.
I should have seen it. I wish I'd say, well, I was looking. That's a guy that got stuck here, and then you work and you go, well, it's working, and you stop going from point A to point B, and people go, hey, I got a great idea. Why don't you stop at this on the way, and people trying to jump on your bandwagon with your business, and you get distracted from your original intention. because of these new great ideas and contributors, and then it turns out that they don't work out. And then 5 years later, what I could have got a building like for 150 grand, I could have bought a 3,000 square foot warehouse, 4,000 square foot warehouse, and converted it over these years. Now it's 3 million. I don't think so. Not at this point in my life. I think I'm just going to play this out until they tell me I can't, and then move it to my house in Joshua Tree, or like I said before we started, retire and go sit on a beach in Tahiti and go drink a beer.
Well, I'm sort of surprised that you're still going out on the road, only
Me
because
too.
I mean, it's not that you wouldn't be in demand. I'm not surprised about that. I'm surprised the fact that it does take so much out of you, and especially when you take long trips like you're talking about. Wow.
Well, actually, the flights don't bother me because I sleep on them. It's the only time I can't. Nobody can bother me. The phone doesn't ring. I kind of, I don't really. I won't say I enjoy it, but I don't not enjoy it. And I always upgrade now if I can. Try and get a good seat I can lay down in. Actually, when we flew back from London, they upgraded us to full on business class, and I can't fit. I'm 6'5". They're made for people 6'4". I couldn't fit in that. It's very uncomfortable. And you've traveled a lot recently, I'm assuming, and
Yeah.
it's a whole different world than it was even 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's really difficult to travel. I'm kind of getting tired of it. But I do have my goal. Like I told you, I want to get to 100 countries. I want to get that bucket list, and I'm at 91. So I'm trying to get.
Where else do you want to go, or do you think you're going?
Well, I want to get every country in North and Central and South America. And as I said, I had 4 more in Central America, and then the only one left in North, Central, and South America would be Venezuela. And I don't think it's a good idea to go there yet. Although I've watched some travel shows, and they say they really blow it out with the propaganda to make you not want to go there. And people go, of course, you have to watch out everywhere, but people go, it's not that bad. They put it in the press, blow it up so people won't go there. Like Angel Falls, the tallest waterfall in the world. It's in Venezuela. I saw a thing how you fly down there, they pick you up at the airport, drive you go hiking for 6 hours, and there you are. You're at this beautiful thing, and you camp out, and they make you dinner and all that. And it's completely safe.
Not so bad. Well, okay, I'm curious. So you go to a lot of exotic places in the world. Do you have, and last time we talked about this, you said it wasn't too much of a problem, but you've been to more exotic places. So I'm curious, is it a hassle to get the gear you want?
No, actually, it's really funny. When I did Keiko Matsui's tour, and we did Kazakhstan, did Uzbekistan, Tashkent, maybe 5 years ago, right before the pandemic, and then the next one we did, we went 2 cities in Kazakhstan, and I said, "Well, I'll just order a Midas, an M32, because they have those everywhere." They said, "I'm sorry, we don't have that. We have a CL5."
Huh.
Every city except one had the CL5, except for not Astana, Kazakhstan. It's the only one that didn't have it. Everyone else had the CL5. They offered it to me. I go, sure, okay. I put it on a thumb drive and, load it up and quick sound check.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about speakers?
For live shows, it's just kind of what's in there. I'm not very particular. I like the Vertec or anything, comparable. I'm not picky. I put in my phone and I listen to 3 pieces of music, one for the low end, a Radiohead song, one for the high end, Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer, actually, because it's so bright. If I get the PA sounding bright with that, then I know where I'm at. It doesn't matter. Sometimes I walk the room, though. I walk the front row, front fills. I was doing that before I even saw it. I saw Barbara Streisand down at the Staples Center, that friends and family show. Her brother-in-law invited me to go, and they had 4 front fills. And I'm going, and they're hidden down. You need at least for those kind of venues, which we did with the Persian artist Gugoush, I'd have 7 across front, sometimes 9. And you'd put the vocal in and a little band so you could hear. But, that's, I can't remember what we used. Other than that, I just use my ear, try and make it sound good.
Every show that I've seen you, every live show that I've seen you mix, it sounded fantastic because it sounded like a record. It sounded like being in the studio, which
No,
is,
thanks.
I hate to say that it's unusual, but it really is, because so many times you get somebody that, a mixer that's really intent on throbbing low end, throbbing
Yes.
bass drum, and you can't hear the rest of the mix well.
No. And they
And
want it loud.
yeah. And you're certainly not like that. Like I say, it's like listening to a record.
Oh,
Uh,
thanks.
I did hear ELO recently, and they were like that as well. The opening act was Danny Harrison, and Danny Harrison sounded really bad. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, what's going to happen here? And then they came on, and it was just, again, like a record, like listening to the albums. It was fantastic.
Oh,
But
good.
exception rather than rule, unfortunately.
Yeah. So bass drum first, then the vocals.
Yeah.
I get those with that Sharam tour I did. They wanted it 105 dB steady, and they wanted the bass drum on top of everything. And I got into a little bit of a stress with the musical director. I finally said, look, you got to let me do my job, and I'll do it well for you. I've got your notes. And then after every show, people say, "Oh my God, it sounded fantastic!" And I go tell him, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it took a while for him to get comfortable with me.
Well, again, I certainly believe that there's a whole generation of live mixers that learn the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
When we're both growing up, I think it was the same thing, where it's like, what is the quietest thing on stage? That's what you work on first, and it's always the vocal for the most part, or a lead instrument that's acoustic. It's like, well, let's be able to hear that and then build around it,
yeah.
rather than how loud can we get the kick drum, and let's add some stuff.
No, you don't need it to keep it simple. Another
Yeah.
thing too, this is kind of funny when I was doing Keiko Matsui's shows. It's smooth jazz, incredible musicianship from the band. Great, she has great band. She plays it like I wouldn't call her smooth jazz. I call it, it's a lot more interesting than just straight ahead smooth jazz. But we play it sometimes, jazz restaurant, steakout, 200-300 people like Catalina's in Hollywood, I think holds 180. I couldn't do those. So I tried to find somebody that would fit her budget. I got busy with other things. So I tried to find people in different parts of the country that could cover, when I couldn't do it. And the one kid that she used in the South, a really nice guy, smart, does a great job. I won't name him, but I said, here, I put a kick drum, a snare drum, and one overhead in the middle, and I might put one on the tom side pointing straight at, so it picks up the ride and the floor tom. 4 mics. I add one for her for the hi-hat, for her monitor. Otherwise, I wouldn't even use the hi-hat mic. And I go, that's how I do it. I call it GAD style because, I worked at GAD so much. The drummer, Jimmy Brandley, who's a great guy, great drummer, they did the Blue Note in Napa. And he said he went in and the guy had kick in, kick out, snare top, snare bottom, all the toms, mic, overhead, ride cymbal. And at that place, you turn everything off.
Yeah.
Everything, a little bass drum for some bottom booty. And, you ride the overhead when it gets louder. And that's all you need. And it's funny. He still does that, apparently. This guy's been covering for about a year with her. That's funny. They learn wrong. They say, this is the way you need to do it. I put them up in case I need them. I guarantee you will not need them. You don't need them. So don't waste your time.
All right, Dennis, last question. What's the one thing that you wish people knew about you that they don't?
I have an identical twin brother. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, our birthday's coming up. Going to go hang out with him. He lives in Utah for some reason. Let's see, next month that'll be. But one thing that's interesting, because if you look back there's those Grammy certificate thing. That's for a band I did for when I moved back from Europe. I mixed a record I was renting a room, and one of the guys later on, his wife had this little trio called Trio Elas, and they were ranchera music, 3-part harmonies, violin, guitar and guitarrón. And I mixed that. It got nominated for a Grammy and a Latin Grammy, and I got it for mastering and mixing. So about a year later, I get a text or call, hey, we're having a party for the release of the record. And I go, gee, it was a year ago. They go, no, it's our new record. And I go, what? Were you not happy? I mean, I got you Grammy nomination with that. You don't, old school, you don't break a winning team.
Yeah, right.
People don't do that now. Oh, we thought you were gone. I am here. I'm here. Call me, send me an email, text. I'm available. I'll fit it in. So that's one thing. Everybody thinks I'm gone all the time when I'm actually here quite more than people think. And so they don't bother to call. I'm still really busy, but I always have time to fit in. You know how we do our scheduling. It's a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's the biggest thing I notice.
Thanks for listening and being in my inner circle. Remember, if you have any questions or comments, you can send them to questions@bobbyowsinski.com. You can also learn all about the latest in music, audio, and production news, and find out about openings for my latest online classes at bobbyowsinski.com. This is Bobby Owsinski. I will see you next time.